welcome back, listeners. This is your pilot speaking. My name is David Hensley. I'm the owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions, and this is your exit interview for the Dharma Initiative. I am joined tonight by my two co-hosts,
Cara Hayes,
Robert Bradford,
and we are concluding our Lost 20-year retrospective by discussing the series as a whole, which hopefully this episode will contain a whole lot less crying than the last one did.
God, I hope so.
There were no themed meal or themed drink this time. We've had a little over a week actually almost two, to sit and reflect. And I know we all have a lot of big thoughts on the show, so we're going to start off with, we're going to go ahead and get the BuzzFeed type listicles out of the way, best and worst and favorite characters and all that, before we get into like some more fun topics and some more like deep dive type conversations. You guys ready to dive in?
Let's go.
Yeah.
All right, easy bar to clear here for the first question. Best season.
So this was tough for me because I spent a lot of today poring over a Google Doc where I went season by season, was like, all right, what did I like about this one? What did I not like? It's tough because every season has good and bad. What kind of settled it for me, David, was looking, you'd already put your answer on the shared note, and so that kind of tipped what had been a toss-up because I wanted to give a different answer. Season 1 of Lost is pretty close to a perfect season of television. I'm not saying it doesn't have like a bad note or an episode that doesn't quite click, but just the way across that 24, 25 episodes you have, like you meet these characters, you enter this world, everybody seems like they've just got more layers to explore. Everybody gets their own arc that culminates in this moment that I still just think about, of them all getting together to launch this raft. It's such a great intro, and you see why the show just became a phenomenon immediately. It starts with a great pilot, it ends with a great finale.
Actually, it was a terrible pilot.
Well, he got the plane on the ground with like any survivors is pretty amazing.
Sure, he's no Frank Lapidus.
Agreed. Frank Lapidus would have done it.
Yeah, if Frank Lapidus had made it to the plane that day, they wouldn't have crashed and there wouldn't have been a show.
Nope.
Amen.
But yeah, so season 1, that is my best season.
It's hard to top. Cara, what about you? What was the best season of the show overall?
For me, it was the final season. I loved how everything wound up, I guess. We didn't get all the loose ends tied in pretty little bows, but the end just, even still, 20 some odd whatever years later, it felt right. It honestly, I don't know, it made me feel, I don't know, hopeful in a way. Like watching it the second time, I drove home just feeling good after, bawling my eyes out.
Yeah. Nice. For me personally, best season, I went with season 4. The shortened season, because of the writer's strike, meant that the whole thing was on a breakneck pace. They introduce a lot of really great characters, some of which make it to the very end. Like we just said, Frank fucking Lapidus, hero. Miles, just great. While he's there, Faraday gets to twitch all over the place and drop some of the weirdest lines on the show, and who doesn't love him?
Mr. Echo.
Some great plot developments. I appreciated them then, and I appreciate them now. The flash forward was a great way to shake up the narrative of the show, and it gave us some real villains. Like the others started out as like supernatural entities, and eventually we found out they lived in 1-bedroom, 1-bath homes in relative luxury. But now we get like Kimi and his military force. And even though they soften him up a little bit later, we get Charles Widmore just in there being the worst. So yeah, season 4 got to be the best in my opinion. How about worst, Robert?
So again, struggled with like pouring over the list, and what I realized was kind of skewing my perspective was that every season of Lost has an amazing finale, and so I always end them thinking on, oh, that was such a great ride. So I had to kind of take the finale out of the picture and be like, okay, across the board, what did it just feel like to watch this? And that's how season 2 ended up. And what I would say is not the worst, it's just the weakest of the seasons. Because it's got some great moments in there. We meet Desmond, we meet Ben, we meet Mr. Echo. But it feels like the season where the show is trying to figure out what to do after season 1. They want to introduce things that shake everything up. Like, there's a hatch here. Well, a hatch. So it's a place with, like, running water and air conditioning and a working toilet. Okay, so are people all just cramming in there to sleep? No, everybody's still hanging out on the beach. It's like, why would they do that?
Well, it wasn't big enough for everybody.
Yeah, but you think there'd be like a bit where they have a conversation about like, okay, 8 people can sleep there. We cycle it out. I don't know. It just feels like they liked introducing more weird stuff, but weren't yet ready to let the average week to week Lost experience change with that. And it wasn't until the end of season 3 that they really got to start just like throwing the toys up in the air and going completely crazy. I also think just around the middle, it has some slumps, like some episodes that just feel random. I wrote in my notes, Charlie goes bonkers for baptism? ? You've got what was it? Sawyer just randomly declaring that he's a bad guy again, despite all of his previous character development. And Kate has a ghost horse that may be her dad and may be possessing Sawyer, who she wants to sleep with. I can't raise my voice high enough for all the question marks on that one.
Ghost horse.
Yeah, so season 2, again, some very strong moments, ends on a great finale, but felt like the show just was still trying to figure itself out. And even though other seasons also have weak points, none of them felt as kind of shaggy as this one did.
Oh, until you brought it up, I had completely forgotten about Ghost Horse. Cara, what is the worst or weakest season in your opinion?
Well, first, I just want to say I love the fact that you like had a Google Doc and you were making the pros and cons. That is just so Robert. That's such a Robert thing, and I had to call that out.
I'll share it if you guys want to just see like my manic scribblings.
Absolutely, I do.
I love your manic scribblings. I agreed with Robert. For me, it was 2 because it had more meh than I think it needed to have, and it just I don't know. It just didn't sing like some of the other ones did.
I feel that. And yeah, I get what you're both saying. I agree to an extent. It felt like 3 was way too obvious of an answer, but in retrospect, season 3 had the worst episodes individually, but on the whole, I think was still pretty strong. We're never going to forget how bad I Do and Stranger in a Strange Land were. But the show, by the end of the season, it redeems itself. Like Robert said, amazing season finale. All of them did. We could have just listed like what was the best season finale.
Oof.
But for me, the weakest season overall had to be 5. It was so much of the season was just place setting, and it introduced a lot of things that just didn't really go anywhere. Like, hey, Son's a gun-toting, Ben threatening badass now. What's going to happen with that? Nothing. She's just going to become passive in the background for most of the season. How are they going to get back to the island? They fly there. There's a plane going to Guam that's going to pass right over it. Well, how do they find it? There's a Dharma station for that. And actually, it's been doing it for a long time. It can pinpoint the location of the island. Well, what are they going to do when they get back there? Nothing, really. The 2007 survivors are just going to hang around in camps, and then the 1977 group are going to join the Dharma Initiative and become janitors. There's a whole section where Jack does nothing for 2 or 3 episodes except janitorial work. Like he cleans blackboards and things. So yeah, again, while it ends great, nothing really much happens. Like there's a big build to getting back to the island, and then it just sort of falls flat for a while. Still enjoy the season. This show I don't think really ever had a bad one, but yeah, definitely the weakest. Robert, you asked us to rank the seasons, so why don't you go ahead and take it here? How do you rank them?
Sure. So I'd say top of my list is season 1, and right behind it, season 4, for reasons that, I pretty much agree with everything David said on that one. I actually put season 5 as my third highest, just because recognizing some of the like dead ends and like things that trail off, it digs the most into the themes that I love about the show. Just the questions of faith, of what you choose to dedicate your life to, what it means to, throw yourself into something even if you don't see it paying off. And time travel brings us to questions of choice versus destiny. There's so much richness there that I put that a little higher than David. Behind that is season 3, which was very hard to rate because it's got both the weakest and strongest stretch of episodes, I think, in the show's run. Season 6 was just below that because as great as the finale is and as much as I love The Flash Sideways, it does feel like there's a lot of wheel spinning. Like, so many episodes have the Man in Black walking around recruiting people to his side, only for it to turn out that his whole plot is just, I will get on a boat and I will leave, so it's not really clear why he needed an army. And then, season 2 at the bottom for reasons already stated.
Cara, how would you rank the seasons?
For me, 6 first, 1 second, and honestly, you could just call them a tie for the top spot. Then it was 4, 3, 5, and 2.
And for me personally, I went 4 and then 1, 6, 2, 3, and 5.
4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42.
Had to get it in there. All right. And this wouldn't be a Lost discussion podcast if we didn't talk about our favorite characters. You just gotta. Right? So, Robert, favorite character or characters?
My favorite still John Locke, the man of faith who just is so convinced of his destiny that he just throws himself into one disaster after another. Such a tragic but sympathetic and compelling figure. Terry O'Quinn is so compelling in every scene. Just absolute blessing that the show was able to cast him in that role. And just then carrying him over to technically a different character in season 6, but still the traits of John Locke carrying over in a way that just makes this villain extra creepy. Also Sawyer up there, just this guy who starts out as the, out for himself, abrasive, angry redneck, and then turns into just one of the most reliable heroes on the island. Just the frustrating thing about Sawyer is that his arc kind of resolves in season 5 when he becomes LaFleur in the Dharma Initiative and he's finally got all this stuff that he never had off the island. And then that gets blown up, so he goes back to being tragic again. But the writers have said that they rewrote the character a lot after Josh Holloway was cast, that Sawyer was meant to be kind of like a more of a like possibly an older guy, like kind of a sadder, like past his prime hustler. And when you have kind of this younger, angrier guy, that they put a lot more edge into Sawyer, and just great mix of like what an actor brings and what the writers bring to that character.
You guys remember that whole section of season 5 where for 3 years Sawyer and Juliet got to be happy, and then Jack and Kate came back and ruined it in 3 days?
I do.
I'm still amazed that he stopped punching Jack in their fight at the end of the season. Like, I had a life here. Why did you come back?
Yeah. Man, poor Sawyer. Anyway, Cara, favorite character or characters?
So, Benjamin Linus. He is just quintessential for me to this show. It honestly, I cannot look at the man and not think Ben. For the longest time, when I watched him in Person of Interest, I kept calling him Ben because couldn't remember Finch. No, it's bad. That's Ben. He's Ben, and I also, I just love the fact that he completely just became completely different, and I loved that. And I also have to say John Locke, because what's not to love about John Locke?
And one of the most tragic television characters ever created.
But yet, he smiles a lot.
Especially when he's got a piece of an orange in his mouth. For me, I think the most consistently great character across all 6 seasons, from episode 1 to episode 108, it's Hurley. Hurley never had any weird ups and downs the way that Charlie and Sawyer did. Everyone, despite the fact that there's an episode called Everybody Hates Hugo, everybody loves Hurley. It's impossible not to. And then behind him, I had to put Miles. He shows up in season 4, so pretty late into the show's run, and is just great from the beginning, even though he gets progressively less to do throughout seasons 5 and 6. Still one of the most memorable characters, in my opinion. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't at least bring up Nikki and Paolo, followed by the show's other great romance, Shannon and Boone. We should have done like a who is your favorite romance, but I don't know how I'd pick between the two of them. I guess the four of them.
Golly.
Kate and everyone who makes her sad.
And slash horny. Yeah.
Horse.
Kate and her horse. The best romance on the show. All right. Well, that sort of takes care of like you got to get them in there somehow listicle type subjects. We're going to move on to something a little more fun for the next couple. Hey guys, over the course of 6 seasons, what was the dumbest thing Kate Austen did? We're going to flip it around here a little bit. Cara, what was the dumbest thing that Kate did?
She didn't blow herself up when she killed her dad. Mm-hmm. Could have avoided all this bullshit.
Could have avoided a lot of things if she hadn't just, I don't know, not blown up her dad immediately after taking out a life insurance policy for her mom.
But if she blew herself up with him, well, that would have made her mom look worse. Never mind.
Yeah. Then she'd have lost a husband and a daughter.
Not a big loss in either count.
And I think Kate was carrying the insurance policy on her when she was setting the explosives.
So see,
her
then
mom might have never even found out that was a thing.
Nobody would have ever known.
Jesus, Kate. All right. Robert, dumbest thing Kate Austen did.
So I looked just in terms of pure consequences. And in the 1970s, her decision to keep hanging out with Roger Linus and eventually tipping him to the fact that these new arrivals know way more than they should about what's going on. Just again, Kate spent a lot of her life as a fugitive. You would think she'd be able to keep a poker face and know how to not draw attention, but no, what she does leads to Saeed getting shot, them getting chased out of the Dharma village at gunpoint, everything that goes wrong in the season 5 finale, basically because Kate just can't pretend like she's listening sympathetically to a stranger without there being something else going on.
It was brief, but there was that moment in season 5 where all three of us were like, is Kate gonna fuck Ben's dad?
I mean, she probably would have given more time.
And she got sad enough, yeah. I got to go with robbing a goddamn bank to get to a toy plane. People got shot, Kate. People could have died. You twirling around with a gun in each hand to get a toy plane. Just buy another one. I understand it has sentimental value.
It belonged to the man she killed.
That man dodged. Well, he didn't dodge a bullet, but
in fact, he did the opposite.
he might have done that on purpose.
There was Kate beside him and the bullet in front of him, and he knew which way was less painful.
Maybe the bullet knew too.
I feel the need to just reiterate one last time. Our contempt is not for Evangeline Lilly, who I think is frequently doing the best with what she's given, but man, the writing for this character was just not good.
No. Absolutely not. Well, over the course of this podcast, we did a lot of various check-ins or watches week to week, famously like the iWatch, which was pretty much a standard across the whole show, a lot of those. But our favorites, or at least the ones that we got the most amusement out of, were the butt holster check-in. Anytime a character would shove a pistol right down the back of their pants, not off to the side or to the front. No, straight down the butt crack. Sawyer's nickname watch, got a lot of mileage out of that. The Dead All Along watch, and then the Jungle Run. So out of all of our various check-ins or watches, what was your favorite? Let's start with Cara.
Dead All Along.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be.
I mean, it's just so much fun to poke you with a stick every once in a while and be like, they were dead all along.
And you owed me for all the times I gave you grief over first Shannon, then Ana Lucia, then Nikki and Paolo.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, God, fucking dead all along watch. Anyway, Robert, what is your favorite check-in that we did?
For me, it was the Sawyer nicknames, mainly because whenever we were recording, we'd have that moment where we'd all pause and try to be like, okay, who is he? Oh, that's right. It's because Hurley says the thing, and that's when Sawyer's, okay, yeah, right. And then we'd have that moment, and we'd be like, oh, that was kind of racist, or just because. Most of his nicknames for Hurley involved Hurley's weight, but most of his nicknames for Jin and Sun were just sort of targeted at Asia generally. Like this was the early 2000s, so before like Parasite and Squid Game, K-pop, you've got a lot more cultural Korean exports now, but back then Sawyer was just like, I don't know, Sun is Tokyo Rose, he called Jin Sulu at one point, right?
Yes, he did. Yes.
Yeah. Which, now I remember, because that retroactively became less racist because he was played by John Cho, who actually is of Korean ancestry in the Abrams films. So Sawyer got like retroactively less racist for that one.
Only slightly. Yeah, and well, I mean, let's not forget at one point he refers to Saeed as Captain Arab. Jesus God, Sawyer, come on.
Which is the most like perfectly Sawyer thing because it's a deep literary pull. It's a Herman Melville reference, but it's also just him being a racist redneck.
Yeah, no, you're right, Robert. If this show were made today, or if we got like a revival or a reboot or whatever, a sequel series, he 100% would call an Asian character, hey, Squid Game, or something along those lines. The K-pop demon hunter over there. Yeah. For me, it's got to be the butt holster. We got so much amusement out of bringing it up every time it happened. Like, oh, so-and-so's got a pistol. Where's it going? Is it going to the side? Is it going to the front? Nope. Straight down the butt crack it went. Look at that. That's got to be uncomfortable. And then jungle runs. Who had the best over the course of the show?
I think, and this isn't me just trying to like be nice to a character I was just sort of defending, but I think Kate had a great jungle run. She had that sort of like final girl in a horror movie, like full tilt charge, but she's looking back over her shoulder. And so about half the time, I think she ended like tripping or running into something. So, give it up. Kate had a good jungle run.
Kate had to get some kind of superlative. Cara, best jungle run.
Sawyer, especially with his shirt off.
Hey, there you go. Hey, similarly, I mean, Nikki, am I right? Bouncing boobily along the beach? No, my actual answer has to be Desmond. Desmond had a pretty great jungle run. Related to Sawyer running shirtless through the jungle, there's that whole part in the 3rd episode of season 2 where isn't Desmond running naked through the... Oh, that's the beginning of season 3.
Yeah,
the beginning of
after
season
the hatch
3
implodes.
Yeah, Desmond running naked through the woods.
That would be my favorite jungle run.
All right. So there are a lot of locations over the course of this show that get visited and revisited. There was the barracks that we all called New Otherton because I had forgotten Sawyer actually calls it that at one point, canonizing it to an extent. But two of their favorites that we nicknamed. In season 1, Saeed very romantically takes time to make a special dwelling for him and Shannon to have a little date night in and then to hook up in afterwards, and we nicknamed it the Fuck Hut. And then later on in season 1, the smoke monster tries to drag John Locke down a hole that it emerges from and then retreats into. And much later, we see it again in season 5, and we nicknamed it the Smoke Hole. So which is funnier, fuck huts or smoke holes?
Every time we just brought up the fuck hut, I just love the journey that thing had across the run of the show. Just it had its moment for Saeed and Shannon, for Jin and Sun. I'd like to think that Rose and Bernard retrieved the foundations of the fuck hut, and that's what the cabin that they're living in when Desmond finds them is their own little temple to the fuck hut.
I still remember the three of us laughing until we cried when you brought up how after Ana Lucia joined the camp, you wanted a cutaway to Sawyer silently weeping as he disassembled it, so that he could
Saeed,
so that he could take those tarps over to Ana Lucia, who would be like, "Why does this smell like sex?" Cara, smoke holes or fuck huts?
Fuck hut. It's just fun to say.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were just to randomly say it to me at any point, any day, I would laugh.
True. We got a lot of mileage and a lot of laughs out of Smoke Hole, but on the whole, I have to give it to Fuck Hut. There were layers to that joke. All right. So now we are going to make some of our final observations / discussions about the series as a whole. And the one that I wanted to bring up, the Man in Black's plan kind of seems like it was doomed from the start to fail. Do you guys think he knew? Like, for him to leave the island, he had to, for better or worse, unplug the island, remove the source, however you want to put it. Which takes away his powers, like his ability to turn into the smoke monster. So a lot of to-do was made, like, we can't let him get off the island. We can't let him get to anywhere. But if he had, he would just be a dude. He would just be like a 50-year-old man. So maybe you could have just, I don't know, let him do that. But then, like, Robert, you made a good point.
Yeah, I guess I always interpreted it as, I mean, one, he was, I think, surprised when he lost his power because he and Jack are both really shocked when he bleeds after Jack punches him in the face. But the idea that it's not just like what he could do if he gets to land, like, you know, smoking through the city and tearing up buildings or whatever, just the idea that he's bringing something with him, that there's like something that he, like, when he touches the ground, he infects the people around him. I mean, in the way that, like, he's always represented on the island, the force that, like, corrupts and turns people against each other, that there's just a more amorphous metaphysical evil that goes with him, in addition to what happens if, like, it's implied that just some bad thing gets out if the island is destroyed already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the best way to sum up Lost as a whole would be, this is, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, the TV show. For all of its criticisms about, like, where the plot went over the course of 6 seasons and the ups and downs and characters coming and going and whatnot, really when you get to the end of the show, it's about the characters and the journey that you went on with them and how invested you got in them individually and how sad you are to not be on that with them anymore. I think it's, part of the reason, aside from just general good writing about why we all got so torn up afterwards, it's like, this is a journey that the three of us went on together with these characters, and now that journey has concluded. And it just feels weird. It felt weird in 2010, and it felt weird a few weeks ago.
There's just a certain finality. I don't. I mean, that's lame. But there's
no. I agree.
There's nowhere else. Like, you can't say, oh well, we could have. No, it's just this is the end.
There were no spin-offs. There's almost certainly not going to ever be a sequel series. There's just, like, there were these 6 seasons of television. There were some, books and
the video game.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a few things, but, like,
who could forget about Via Domus?
What an interesting experience that was to play. You get to jungle run. There's a whole jungle running mechanic. But yeah, just that there's these 6 seasons and then that's just sort of it. Like, you've experienced Lost then, and it's crazy when that's over.
Yeah, very much so.
Kind of in that note, I was just found myself thinking, if Lost had been made 10 years earlier or 10 years later, like, what would it have looked like? Because it kind of came at this perfect point where you had sort of the peak TV out of the 90s. You had all these, like, prestige dramas like, The West Wing. Well, West Wing was late 90s. I would say, like, ER, Law and Order, and all that. And then you had a show like The X-Files, which was this weird sci-fi thing that somehow became a huge mainstream hit. And so executives are like, all right, what's the next X-Files? Something that we can put some money behind and capture this particular subculture. And it's like, if they tried to make it like after Twin Peaks or something, just what that would have looked like in the 90s.
Well, it would have looked like Twin Peaks is exactly where my head went. If
Oh, see, I went the opposite. Given the premise of the show, attractive people crashing on a desert island, if you were to make this in 1994, this would have been the most melodramatic TV show of all time. We spent a lot of time making fun of like how melodramatic the first and second episodes were, and then we got to revisit that with Across the Sea. Do you guys remember Across the Sea?
What's Across the Sea?
The episode of the television show Lost that's titled Across the Sea.
I don't remember Across the Sea.
How
Yeah.
do people get to the island if they're not there already?
Well, it's across the... Never mind. I feel like, if you made the show in 1994, it would have been all melodrama all the time, and there would have been a lot more emphasis on the romance angles.
It also
It would have been 90210.
It definitely would have been filmed in Vancouver or something like that.
Yeah.
Nobody would have been like, "We're not flying you to. You're not doing this in Hawaii. That's crazy."
On the opposite side, if you were to make this in 2014, it would have gone straight to streaming. I'm pretty sure this wouldn't be a network show. There would have been a lot more sex and nudity. Everybody would have been fucking.
And hopefully a lot more like, visual smoke monster death things.
It definitely would have had a bigger budget, and like just advanced effects would have done a lot more. But part of me is like, what you never see on a streaming platform is 20 episode seasons.
Right.
Like you would have had like 8 or 9 episodes. Like the first season would have been unrecognizable. You probably would have like slashed the ensemble down to like 6 or 7, maybe 8 survivors instead of like what we got. And I just, not to be like, the cranky old man who just says everything new is worse than what I grew up with. But yeah, you watch, especially the first season of Lost, and you just remember what it was when like these high concept shows could still take time for their characters to breathe and just give us here's a subplot where Hurley builds a golf course, or here's, just recurring bits in the background of Michael trying to bond with his son. And yeah, I think Lost in the 90s would have been interesting, maybe successful, but very different. I don't think Lost in 2014 would have worked, and I feel like we can kind of tell because there are a lot of shows that tried to do that. And while it's hard to imagine, you can't imagine post-Lost TV in a world where Lost didn't happen, if that makes sense.
It was lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
You're never going to recapture that magic. Also, if it had been made in 2014 and gone straight to streaming, we would have had to wait like 2 years between the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yes.
We talked about it. We touched on it briefly. Were there any big mysteries left that the show did not cover in some fashion?
So for me, and I couldn't remember it. I thought of it and then I forgot again. So you had mentioned about, the infection that Russo was like freaking out about. What was that like? Did I miss that, or like does that ever?
I think it's implied that that wasn't actually a thing. That like it might have been the smoke monster impersonating the people who had died in her party. So she's like, I see them, but they're acting differently than they did before, and that led her to just the point of paranoia where she killed her lover, Alex's father. I think Kelvin also used that as a lie to like keep Desmond from going out of the hatch, but I don't think, apart from the radiation impacting pregnant women, there was any like general sickness on the island.
No. I think the conditions or the mechanics of moving the island or just using the electromagnetic energy to teleport, they didn't really touch on, but it's such like a majestical concept that like, how do you really explain that? Here's a huge pocket of electromagnetic energy that makes weird shit happen. Just go with it.
You couldn't.
Have y'all seen Violent Night with David Harbour as
Yes.
Die Hard Santa Claus?
Yes.
There's a recurring bit in that show in that movie where Santa uses like his ability to like disappear up a chimney and pull things out of his sack to like murder people. But he just constantly keeps referencing, look, it's Christmas magic. Even I don't really know how it works. And I feel like that's sort of lost. Like, look, it's island magic. Even Jacob doesn't really know how it works. So the stuff that's like, ooh, how does this mysterious thing happen? Magic. Just go with it.
Magic Island.
I do wonder. Now, was that guy actually psychic when he told Claire she needed to go to L.A.? Like, did that guy know the plane crashed? Because he told Echo that he was a fraud, but I don't know. That's always weird to me.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that guy. I'm going to go with even a broken clock is right twice a day. I feel like, you make enough weird psychic predictions, eventually you're going to be right at least once.
Yeah.
Hell, that's half of what I do on the internet. People are still listening to me.
There was a website or a guy who did like it wasn't like a BuzzFeed list. It was something, but it was like the 50 lost questions the show did actually answer. And it was kind of a deep dive into like, okay, but what is the heart of the alien? It's like, well, based on this, this, and this, we can assume that it's, and it was actually this really interesting, it was very nerdcore stuff, but I remember like coming away from that being like, oh, I don't know if that's actually stuff the writers came up with or this guy's just stretching to, spit and tackle it all together, but...
Was number one, why was there a polar bear on a desert island?
I think there was some that he was just like, because the Dharma Initiative brought it there.
Yeah.
Like, in some, he's just like a one-sentence thing, like...
I remember this now, yeah. Because you're right, yeah, that was a handful of them, just one... Or this is the best explanation that you got.
Why did Ethan do this? Because Ethan was a jackass. Just...
And creepy looking.
Yeah.
There's that, too. All right, Robert, your last one there?
Yeah, one thing I'll always wonder about, because there was a lot of this show that was sort of, they talked about having some big picture plans, but a lot of it was rewritten on the fly. This actor really takes off, this actor's not working out, big plans change. But what's always stuck with me is if Jack had died in the pilot, which was the original plan, Jack gets ripped out of the cockpit by the monster and they find his body in a tree. Who sort of steps up as like the big good figure that Jack eventually becomes? Because they talked about Kate stepping up as like the leader figure, and I think we've talked about it. One of the reasons her character suffers is they never really came up with anything to replace what should have been that arc. But like, who's the foil to Locke? Is it like Saeed, who's this guy with a technical background who's so like pragmatic and mission focused? Is it Sawyer, who's such a burned out cynic that he would never like believe in any of the stuff that drives Locke? Just who fills that role, I wonder.
Oh, if the question is what would the show have looked like if Jack died in the pilot, it wouldn't have made it past mid-season. I think this would be, without Matthew Fox and without Jack Shephard, this would be a show that people talk about still on Reddit. Like, man, that was a great half of a season. I wish that we would have gotten some sort of conclusion to it. And I think that really would have been it.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. I actually had a question that I was going to ask, and by God, right out of my head.
That happens. Well, think on it while we ask possibly the most important question, the most influential topic that we've ever brought up on this podcast that I'm revisiting tonight for the last time. Who, if the whole cast is Muppets, who is the lone human in season 6? We did this back in season 5 for seasons 1 through 5, and now for the very last season, we got to jump in one more time. There is one human character on the show Lost. The rest of the characters have been replaced with Muppet versions of those characters. So I'll kick it off. I'm going to say I want to see Ken Leung as Miles, the only sane man on the island surrounded by Muppets. What say you, Cara?
Flock. I think it would have been hilarious just trying to be diabolical against floppy Muppets.
I'm imagining Muppet Richard Alpert like walking out in the middle of New Otherton and just like pinwheeling through the air.
That was as soon as Cara said that was my immediate thought. He's like, I'm going to go talk to him. And then he walks out, and then the smoke monster comes, and then just puppet Richard just goes flying off, pulled by a string.
Like the Muppets are just like shooting, like, I guess they wouldn't use guns. They use like slingshots or whatever at him. And he just like walks up and casually just like twists the Muppet's, I don't know, head fully around.
Yeah.
Like smacks Beaker's head down into his shirt collar.
I would watch that show. Yeah. Robert, what about you?
This is a bit of a cheat because I picked a character who's only in like the first 7 episodes, but I would love to see Dogen just because the idea of like Hiroyuki Sanada, just this venerated Japanese actor with just miles of charisma and gravitas, just like telling, Muppet Jack that like, you need to kill your friend before he turns fully evil. And just, I would just love to have him be the straightest of straight man in all those scenes.
Having a fight scene with Muppet Saeed.
he falls behind a table and the Muppet goes flying up in the air, and then like the table flips over, and yeah.
Drowning a Muppet
the Muppet drowns him too.
Oh, God.
Wow.
All right, so over the course of the show, we kept two different lists here regarding lines, best line deliveries and saddest lines. Looking down this list, I'm going to read them all. And for the last one on the best lines, I need you to do your impression here, Robert. But best line deliveries, early contender is Jack screaming, "I married her." The second one that we found noteworthy enough to put in the notes was Locke at a support group meeting telling a woman, "You want your $30 back? I want my kidney back." A line that made us laugh until we cried.
I still love that one.
There's a son coming up to, I think it's Sawyer. "I need a pregnancy test."
Uh-huh. And then you read this next one really well as well, Robert.
"I didn't say I was going to do it. I just want you to understand how you're going to die."
Yep.
Jack to Ben.
And then from the classic Stranger in a Strange Land, we have Bai Ling delivering, "I am not a tattoo artist."
And then there's Hurley getting fed up with Sawyer's nickname. It's like, I think Sawyer calls him like Jumbo or Stay Puffed, and Sawyer just goes, Hurley goes, "Shut up, redneck man."
Cara, you have to be the one to say this next one.
Razzle dazzle.
That's goddamn right.
Bah.
This one isn't from one of the characters. It's from the three of us like building off of each other while talking about Desmond, hunk monk drunk as a skunk. And then we actually like get into a serious mode here, Robert.
From the brig when Richard, what was his real name? I'm drawing a blank on it. Sawyer's dad.
That guy.
Yeah. Reveals that he used the alias Tom Sawyer, and just the light goes out in Josh Holloway's eyes, and he goes, "Sawyer's my name too." And the strangling is just minutes away at that point.
We're going to have a special guest star here for a second with one of her favorite lines, Charles Widmore's delivery to Benjamin Linus.
"You stand there looking at me with those horrible eyes."
Yes, the line that Katie then went off on a tangent about, you with your hairless tail mixed together with all of your brethren forming a rat king. But then we also get another one from Ben from the end of season 4 when he is putting a bunch of shit into that metal room that should definitely not go in there. He tells Locke, "If you mean time-traveling bunnies, then yes."
There's a classic from Hurley's mom when she comes home and finds Saeed. "Why is there a dead Pakistani on my couch?"
Love that one too.
Cara, do you want to take this next one from Frank goddamn Lapidus?
We're not going to Guam, are we?
And then we're going to veer back into serious for a second. There's possibly one of the worst timed lines from any character because it gets him fucking stabbed. Ben, after a heart-wrenching monologue to Jacob, Ben tearfully says, "What about me?" To which Jacob responds, "What about you?"
Stab.
Beautiful line delivery, horribly timed because then Ben stabs him. And then the last one we put here, Robert.
Yeah, it's when they've convinced Richard to come back and join them in their quest against Flock. And I think Alana says, "Richard will know what to do." And they all look to him and he just goes, and just the insane cackle that Nestor Carbonell lets out as he realizes how screwed they are if they think he knows what to do next.
Well, some of the lists that we just read overlap or could have overlapped with the saddest lines across the entire show, beginning with the end of season 2 when Hurley is talking to the dying, or maybe already dead at that point, I don't remember, Libby, and he tells her, "I'm sorry, I forgot the blankets."
Same episode of The Brig where Sawyer is forcing Anthony Cooper, there we go, to read the letter that he wrote. And Cooper's trying to figure out who this kid's even referring to. And Sawyer just tells him, "Mary. Her name was Mary," talking about his mom.
And then from the episode Greatest Hits, Charlie summing up the list that he has been writing. It's the 5 best moments of my sorry excuse for a life, my greatest hits. Ugh, Christ. That episode ruined all of us.
Yeah.
And we got two back-to-back ones here from Hurley. Robert, you want to take these?
So when he's trying to get Charlie to let him come along, and Charlie doesn't expect to come back, he won't let Hurley come on the boat, and Hurley just sadly says, "I just want to help, please." And he wants it so bad, and Charlie just has to make up a reason for him not to come along.
And then when Desmond returns after that fateful expedition down to the looking glass, or not the looking glass, down to the Dharma station, while trying to tell people what's going on, Hurley is in the background.
Where's Charlie?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Ugh.
This next one wasn't actually a spoken line, but it is the suicide note that John Locke wrote before, unbeknownst to anybody, he actually got murdered. But Jack reads this. "I wish you had believed me, John Locke."
God, saddest suicide note of all time. Just because you do, I feel like I'm throwing a lot of these at you, Robert, but it's because you do such great impressions, especially of Daniel Faraday.
Yeah, so after Charlotte dies and tells one of her last moments is telling Daniel that she thinks she saw him when she was a young girl, that he came and told her not to come back to the island. Faraday is just rocking back and forth saying, "I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to tell her. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to tell her." Over and over again.
And then we get this fuck you of a line from the Man in Black talking to Ben Linus towards the end of season 5. "Do you want to know what he was thinking while you choked the life out of him, Benjamin? What the last thought that ran through his head was? I don't understand." Woof.
And this one was actually spoken in Korean originally, but Jin saying, "I'll never leave you again. I love you," to Sun, just before they both go under the water.
Kara's getting emotional in the recording booth, and the next line,
I can't.
when I heard it out loud in the episode, it made me sit forward in my chair and turn and look at Cara to see her response. It's Jacob to Hurley towards the end of season 6. "We're very close to the end, Hugo." And then the penultimate, or not exactly penultimate, but it's close, Jack's revelation about what the Flash Sideways has been the entire time while speaking to his father. He says, "Because I died too." Good Lord. All right. Are there any final thoughts about Lost that you guys would like to share before we wrap this all up?
Well, I just kind of would like to point out, this is all Jacob's fault.
Yeah.
I mean,
mean,
yeah, turns out to be that's the point of the show.
Like,
If he and his
fucking Christ, if you hadn't yeeted him down the hole of light or whatever the fuck.
The light hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, the light hole. Which is way better than the smoke hole.
Yeah, it gets dark in the smoke hole and bumpy. There are ridges.
You don't want to go through too fast.
Burn protection. Yeah, no, and I think Jacob says as much towards the end of season 6. Like, yeah, I fucked up, and now I've been trying to find a replacement for
my
centuries.
For my fuck up.
Yeah.
Unlike Hurley, who I think we can all agree never made a mistake during his entire run as protector of the island.
Exactly.
Just crushed it.
Ever.
All right. Well, I'm very glad that you guys talked me into doing this after I initially said no more podcasts. Because as the surviving podcast now, it's easy to forget that at one point there were 5 active podcasts on this network. We had the flagship shows, Long Walk Talks, and This Is a Work. Then we had our other 2 wrestling podcasts, This Is a Takeover and This Is a Rewind. And then we had our on-again, off-again shorter podcast, Long Walk Teeny Talks with me and Katie. And all of that eventually got whittled down to just this. Then we're the last ones standing. And I'm perfectly okay with that because there was a period in time where we were recording like 2 or 3 times a week, especially when we had overlapping wrestling pay-per-views. There was a fucking week where we had WrestleMania, an AEW pay-per-view, and an NXT pay-per-view all on the same weekend. And I spent entirely too much time in here working on those and talking about wrestling. But anyway, yeah, after my initial no, I thought about it, and I'm so glad that I said yes, and that the three of us got to do this together, and that we got to involve our spouses in it as well.
I wish we would have kept track of how many times he said no.
Yeah.
I think it was just twice.
Oh.
I think there were, because a lot of times we weren't just asking, we were just sort of like talking about what a great idea
Oh,
it
yeah.
would be and just kind of letting
And me
that
in the
go.
background going, no.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Yeah, I
We're
mean-
not adding any more shows to the network. Jump cut.
I will just say for me, the fact that I got a tattoo while we were doing this show, which is not something I'd ever really thought about doing before, and I don't know if I'll ever do it again since, but it just, I will look at that tattoo and have happy memories of just the show that it relates to, all the meaning that it has within that show, and just the experience that we all had doing that together.
Yeah, exactly.
Agreed.
I'm so glad we got those tattoos.
Me too.
All right. Well, next week we are going to be watching our very last Lost adjacent movie, Bone Tomahawk, which features Matthew Fox. It's a fun little Western romp that doesn't feature any gratuitous violence whatsoever.
Cowboys and Indians, yeehaw.
Yep. Yeah. There's so many puns I could make, but I think I've already abused the...
Save him.
Yeah, exactly. I will. All right. Well, if you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us. To see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming, you can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoy this show, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening on. We have to go back.